We do know that South Africa remains a hotspot really for remote work. Not only are we seeing South Africans moving from one part of South Africa to generally the coast, we're seeing a lot of people who live outside of South Africa who are choosing to come and work remotely here in South Africa. The taxman would like to get some of that money that they are making while they are working in South Africa. And here to talk us through some of the legalese is Bronwin Human. Bronwin is a tax attorney at Tax Consulting SA. Bronwin, a very good morning and welcome to the show.
Hi, Africa. Thank you so much for having me.
I suppose the important and immediate question to ask, if those non-South African nationals who have chosen South Africa as a place where they want to work are working for companies that are non-South African and not even based in South Africa, why should the taxman have access to their income?
That's a very good question, Africa. And I think we have to first say that seems like it's a policy consideration, which we don't really comment on, especially in light of the fact that these employees, whether they're non-resident for tax purposes in South Africa or resident, they are probably already paying provisional tax. So it's unclear at this stage why the taxman would want to impose employees' tax on these employees rather than just be happy with the provisional tax that they're getting at the moment.
I imagine, though, for them to get that employees' tax, it will require quite a lengthy legislative process, won't it?
Yes, so they are the changes that are proposed to the legislation at the moment, in terms of the space on the page that it's taking up is quite small. The proposed amendment simply says any employer or representative employer will be liable to withhold employees' tax from employees in South Africa, whereas currently the legislation says any employer who is a resident. This means that even foreign employers will now have to register with the UIF, Unemployment Fund, Skills Development Levy, so that they can withhold employees' tax, pay as you earn, Unemployment Fund, Skills Development Levy. So the administrative burden on these foreign employers will increase dramatically.
Are we not running the risk then of discouraging people from coming to South Africa? Because remember, while we might not be able to draw as much of tax revenue as the SARS would like to realize, there are other benefits. Often people are buying property here. They're certainly spending money while in South Africa, not only to buy groceries and to consume, but lifestyle entertainment. They're buying clothes, they're going to hospitals. Money is being spent in South Africa, and we want that, surely?
Absolutely. We definitely run the risk of discouraging foreign employers from employing South African employees, especially in light of the fact that South African employers are well educated, they're hardworking, and we come at a fraction of the cost of employees in Europe and the US. So this proposed change will certainly discourage foreign employers from employing us.
What can and should I suppose you and I do? Because if we are interested in getting more and more non-South African nationals and citizens coming to live in South Africa to work here, is there any way that we can, I don't know, petition Parliament and say, while you are thinking of the legislative process, please be mindful of this negative impact on those people coming to move here?
Yes, certainly. So these proposed amendments were published at the end of July, following which there was a period of public comments, which closes today. Certainly there have been comments and objections raised that we know of. SARS and the National Treasury will consider these objections, consider the comments, and through the process of this bill passing through Parliament, we will have to wait and see whether our comments and objections have had any impact on Parliament.
Because the other negative, I mean, other than people no longer wanting to come and work based in South Africa, we do run the risk of them being double taxed, right? Where we are taxing them for all sorts of things while they're still being taxed in whatever their origin is or where their domicile is outside of South Africa, effectively.
Yes, that's a very good point that you raise. and it's quite a complicated answer. So the short answer is yes, they do run the risk of double taxation. But the upside of that is we as a firm, Tax Consulting SA, are well positioned to advise any listeners who might be worried about this aspect on how to maximize their tax benefits.
Yeah. Do we know of whatever best practice is in, I suppose, other countries welcoming digital nomads, as we call them, and where there is just a sweet spot balance between what the country where the people have chosen to go now live and work are able to enjoy from tax benefits, while it doesn't feel like you're exploiting that non-citizen for choosing to work and live in your country?
So we as South Africa, our tax legislation always tries to be in line with international best practice. But there are a host of considerations that you have to look at when you choose to employ someone remotely who may be working in a country that is not where your business is situated. These considerations range from quite simple to very complex in nature, but our South African tax legislation and the advice that we give to our clients certainly is in line with international best practice.
All right. Well, Bronwin, thank you very much. Certainly the legislative process underway. I'm going to encourage people to agitate if they can, wherever the Member of Parliament represents their constituency, because this will have quite possibly dire impact on South Africa. Bronwin Human is a tax attorney at Tax Consulting South Africa, talking to us about the tax hurdles for remote workers and digital nomads, that legislation going through Parliament right now.